Hey everyone. Um, I wanted to make this video of me just getting all of my thoughts out here about the current situation and the world kind of being on fire and everything right now. Um, I've wanted to do YouTube for a long time. I wanted to do something on it, something on the platform. I wasn't sure what that was. I just wanted to do something, and I did make a couple videos. Um, Excuse me, my allergies are going nuts. Uh, did a couple videos with TikTok. I made a compilation of stuff. I like to make people laugh, do some comedy stuff, funny bits, some true stories that I've lived through, and put a more comedic take on it. But when all this started going down, it was brought up to me of like, hey, why don't you make a video and talk about politics and stuff like that. Now, to be fair, I don't want to make this a political thing. Like, that's not what this is. But it is I'm calling it politics talk because it's just talk among people, right? Um, and the reason I was so adamant and wanted to do that was because it made sense. Um, because in a world where we don't talk enough as people one to one, the people that we don't agree with a lot of the times get pushed aside or cast out because simply they don't view things or the world exactly the way somebody else does. A lot of the times, there are friend zone, or their friend zones of like, you know, like that I've seen dissolve like over the past couple of years because it was like you support this or you don't support this person or you're on this line or you're on that line and the friend groups get torn apart and then it's like you wouldn't even know that they were ever friends in the first place. So I wanted to get on here and just get everything out to you guys. Everyone that I've talked to over the past couple of years, people that I went to school with, you'll see this. I'm going to post it on YouTube. I'll probably post a link on Facebook, sharing it on other platforms, but I want to get this message out there. And I want to tell you, everyone, my stance because I was shocked at some of the responses that I got in response to just giving my input. So, first off, let me just say if you are not in support of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, why? What are you doing? Um, it's 2020. Black lives do matter. Can't believe I have to say that. Yes, all humans matter. It doesn't matter what. Now, I'm not trying to discredit the movement. I'm just telling everybody so they're not like, don't go the all lives matter route. I'm just saying the fact that you have to argue that a person's life matters no matter what they are is something that's preposterous. Yes, and black African American communities have been treated horribly across the country over the past couple of years in a lot of situations. Um, Police brutality is a huge issue. Um, it, you know, Floyd is not the only victim. It's countless people that over the past couple of years have made news, but also people that haven't made news. I imagine, and it's something that needs to have reform. It needs to have a strong government response, and it needs to have reform put in place that needs to end this. It needs to end it, which is why I love the movement. The movement's fantastic. Now, that being said, what I did was I went on Facebook and I commented on a friend, longtime friend of mine, throughout high school, and I've talked to her, and I commented on a post. and it was in reference to where I live in Wilkes-Barre, PA. Well, I live in Nanticoke now, but I grew up in Wilkes-Barre. Um, it was in reference to the peaceful protests that happened that were happening around here, as opposed to a lot of the looters and the setting fires to churches and the violence um, and I just simply said that I didn't want to I didn't want to see violence being met with violence, violence and injustice trying to be cured by purveying violence and injustice. Facing off, it doesn't work. It's something that, one, if your message is to stop the hate, stop the unfair treatment based upon a racial stance or any stance, of unfair judgment or unfair quality or however you want to look at it, it's injustice. As the way we look at the system, it's injustice. So as people, we need to learn to go back to those good old days and figure out right then and there, what can we do? We need to talk. Like, people don't do that anymore. They have such a strong stance in one area, and they're not going to budge most of the time anymore. You got your mind made up, and that's good to have your mind made up in terms of where your stance is, but you got to hear the other side out. Now, let me get this straight again. In no way, shape, or form am I advocating for what happened to George Floyd. That cop, what he did was disgusting. In my opinion, that was a racial act. It was horrible. Horrible. And that stuff is unacceptable, disgusting, and needs to end. Now, on the other hand, people that are looting for the sake of looting. Now, there are people that are going in, destroying stuff, burning churches. That's something that gets me a lot. But burning these buildings and burning these churches and burning, you name it, family-owned stores, small stores, people that have sacrificed their whole life savings and life into these stores, and they're just trying to protect their business. But you see people being beaten up because they're standing out front in their business trying to prevent, all hell breaking loose and them losing something that they've worked their whole life for. That's what I'm not in support of. It's the violence against innocent people in response to violence against innocent people. That's what I'm trying to say. I understand you're angry as much as I can from who I am. Like, I know I will never understand a lot of the pain and the suffering that people have gone through that aren't in my race or that are of another race or minority or, African American or you name it. There's sufferings that have happened that I will never understand. But as much as I can, I do. I understand as much as I can, possibly. I'll never get it to the level that people have suffered, of the specific group I'm talking about, in said scenario. But I get the anger. But you have to, if you want to act as a role model and you want to go move towards change, you want to get unity and change, you need to unify. Going through and saying our lives matter just as much and we want to unify, that's not the message that's going to be perceived here. It is to an extent, but when you're going through and destroying property, and I know people say property can be replaced, right? You can you can buy new stuff, but you can't buy Black Lives back. I understand. That's a great point. Nothing can put a price tag on a human life. I understand that. But what I'm saying is there are people that are using the movement, they're using Floyd's death as a means to simply rob. We've seen that. That's one problem I have because you see people robbing, and what they're doing is they're not for this Black Lives Matter movement. They're there because they found a loophole that they're trying to exploit simply to steal. That's undeniable. You can see that throughout the country. People that are for a movement and they're disgusted by an action, specifically his death, they are not going to these stores, looting, taking this stuff, posting pictures of them with their family smiling with a bunch of stolen, stuff worth thousands of dollars that they just ran out of the store with and taking it home. Now, I would get the point if everything was just being destroyed. I wouldn't say I would advocate it. I would go for it. I'm just saying if you were destroying stuff because to make a point that you were angry, I would be more inclined to believe that you are firmly with this thing because you're like, I don't need this stuff. I'm just trying to make a point here. I'm destroying it. I'm not taking it home for my benefit. I'm not just stealing. I'm saying, screw this. This is ridiculous and preposterous. I get that. So for the people just looting to loot, they exist. That's unacceptable. The people that smash stuff is also not right to me, and that they're destroying stuff, setting stuff on fire like churches. That's also not acceptable to me. But what I'm saying is there's a difference between, I can still believe those people probably are for the movement. They're for the movement. The people that are just looting to go home and brag and never be seen from again, they're not for a movement. They're dragging Floyd's name through the mud. Now, like I said, I think we need to talk more. I reached out to, well, actually, excuse me, somebody reached out from high school days on Messenger because I commented on a post kind of discussing what I've been discussing with you about. I don't know how you're rationalizing the violence in response to violence. It's not going to go over well, especially in a time where the president, no offense, he's not going to unify the country. Regardless of what you think about him, he's not a unifying kind of person. But a girl reached out for me from high school, and she said, I agreed with everything you said on Facebook. And I won't mention your name just in case you don't want your name out there for any reason. If you do, then I'll kindly go back, edit this, and, put a link. People can go and follow you, whatever you want to do. But she talked to me, and it meant a lot because there's only been two people that reached out to me during this and were like, I wish people thought more like you and this. And I got into conversations with her about response to all this and how much has changed since high school and all that great stuff. And it was a good flashback, but I really enjoyed talking to her, and you don't get that a lot of somebody coming to you and being like, not a lot of people want to use some introspection. They don't want to look inward on themselves and take other people's viewpoints into account and try to better themselves. There's no bettering of oneself mostly anymore. There's a mindset. That mindset gets made up, and then you don't veer from it. And that's how you get a nation so divided. Again, like I said, hence there is a president that doesn't like to unite. Obviously, it's just, like I said, regardless of how you feel about some of his things, what he does, whatever. It's also that's not what I'm trying to get at here. That's a whole other conversation that we can have. I'll make a whole other episode on it, and but there's something about doing that was refreshing, and that you don't get a lot of. I think there are a lot of people that talk amongst each other like that, but right now they're even afraid to come out and try to unify with the movement, and maybe try to be like, well, let's move in a direction where it's a little more peaceful. I tried to do that, and I got called out for being part of the problem. I was like, I'm all for your movement. I would like to join and do this, and I'll even protest. I would love to do that. But I think that we need to make sure that the protests aren't hurting innocent people in the process. You know, and the violent riots aren't just hurting. Like they're not just hurting a race. Like they're not hurting the rich white man or whatever the target might be that has them angry. The cops are not just hurting cops in this case. We'll say they're hurting everybody. They're hurting people within. I mean, you have a wide variety of people join this movement, which is fantastic. That's how you know you're unified and you have numbers you can't deny. But it's hurting everybody, every business. Of it doesn't matter the color of you. It's hurting everyone. Most of them are innocent. Like for instance, I read a story today about. Actually, the story was brought to me about this business or this building was set on fire. Looters set the building on fire. There was a toddler in the building, and they set this building on fire. And I think it was a toddler and a parent. Um, and they blocked. The looters were attempting to block the entrance from the firefighters, and they were preventing them from putting out the fire. Now that's whether or not something's in there or not, or if there's a person in there or not. That's disgraceful. If they knew someone was in there, that's even more disgraceful. But you don't. If you're gonna set something on fire, how much do you want to really stoop? To like block them from putting it out. The point has been made. I'm with you with your movement, but we have to stop the destructive behavior. You don't heal a nation. You don't bring a nation together. You don't heal the wounds that have been inflicted upon any community of any race. If you want to bring America together, you don't do that by blowing up the streets. You do that by making, like I said, your voice so loud, which it is. You can see that across the nation and hell, even across overseas. People are getting behind this movement. Just because people want to talk to you and open up and tell you, like, hey, listen, I love you. I love everything about you. I love the movement, but I think we need to do this more peacefully. That doesn't mean they're against you. That means they want to see this, without a doubt, be a success. Because otherwise, at least that's where I'm coming from, if you continue with violence in your protests, it's only gonna cause more divide and hate. And I want to see the world heal. I want to see the U.S. get back to being that melting pot that it is supposed to be and that it was shaped to be, where we all do get along. And you think by 2020 we would have figured it out, but guys, we haven't. But the answer is not violence with violence. People know me. The people that accuse me of being part of the problem, they know that I'm not, and they can disagree with me. That's a great part about this, but they know that I'm not like a racist person. Like I judge people based on two things: your personality. There's only two times I judge people in my life, really. It's your personality. Usually, that's most cases. Is I'm like, are you a good guy or a good girl? Are you a good person? Um, do you care about others genuinely? Do you not use others for your own gain all the time? Are you just genuine overall? The other thing I gauge is if it's a hiring process, right? If you talk to me about a hiring situation for any person, merit based. Like that's why would it be anything else? It's baffling to me that there are quotas of anybody, that you have to hire so many of a specific race or so many white people or so many, and that's a thing. That happens. There are quotas. that you have to meet. And I want to see a world where everything's merit based. It's as fair as you get. You want equality, that's as fair as it gets. When you're making friends, talking to people, you get to know who your friends are, you share similarities. Hell, I got a lot of friends that I don't agree with at all politically, but we're best of friends. But that's hard to come by now. Because if you don't agree politically, that's like the number one thing that people care about, it seems like. And they will alienate you if you're far away, if you're too far gone. Who I am politically has nothing to do with if I can be your friend. I guarantee you. It shouldn't. I mean, on my end, it doesn't. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I got off a little track there, but it should be merit based if it's an employee. Like I said, that's equality. That's what arguing equality is. Equality isn't you have to hire this many of this person, this many of this person, and this many of this person. That sounds like equality, but equality isn't you have to have the equal number of each one of these. Equality is judging everybody from the beginning. If everybody has the same opportunities growing up, and that's another thing, that's another conversation we can have. But if you get to a point to where you have all these things on the table, and if the one thing that is on everyone's mind is merit, you're going to have a good variety of people, I guarantee you. If there's no quotas to meet. Merit-based should be the one and only thing in terms of jobs or anything. But that's off the point. I'm just saying that's the only... I know that's off of me just judging if I judge people, those are the two scenarios that I do. So I just wanted to get all this out there because I know some people are dealing with the same stuff in terms of I stand with all of you with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm 110% with you. I wish we figured this out by now, but we haven't. So those of you that are protesting, thank you. I would like to do so as well. I may do so. If there's something locally, I'll go to the gathering. But I want to make sure that the gathering isn't going to involve criminal action and beating up of innocents and burning buildings and churches just to get a point across. Now, that's not what I will take part in, because that's fighting fire with fire, but in this scenario, not in the good sense of, oh, you're going to match the power. I mean, you're just going to make the fire worse. Well, I guess a better analogy would have been putting fuel in the fire. I wish I would have thought of that before I went through that weird explanation, but, it's where we're at. This is going to go up on my YouTube channel. This will actually be my first video, so I'm hoping that it's something that gets a lot of people talking. Hopefully they'll subscribe. You'll see a lighter side to me down the line. I'm going to be doing some skits, some videos, lighthearted stuff. But if all of you could at least comment, like, or dislike, if it's free country, right? That's what we're all about here. Like, dislike, subscribe to my channel, please. I'd appreciate it. I know it's a long video, but I think it's something that's worth watching just because of the topic. And it seems like the world needs just some rational conversation. So if you can please respond, give me all of your thoughts. I want to read them. Subscribe, share my video wherever you can. That's all I got. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.